Hoorah! Cutlery Sergeant George here! You ever wondered how soldiers in the battlefield went from throwing stones to this? Well, you're in a real treat today because we're going to take a close examination of one of the best knives the market has to offer to you. So buckle up, shut up, and then let's lock and load! Hello everyone, and welcome to another review of George. And just now I used one of my newer introductions, and I hope you liked it. Today we're going to talk about the Spyderco Military. If you're in the knife, if you're actually a knife collector or a knife enthusiast, you probably have been living under a stone if you haven't heard of this knife. To be honest, I've been actually wanting to get one of these knives for almost 10 years. It's just because there's a couple of features that has been missing on this knife that I really want to have, and I didn't actually pull the trigger on buying it. But today, but a couple of months ago, I finally bought one of these, and it's really been a great experience. And we're going to take a very detailed examination and a review through this this knife, and I hope you enjoy the review. So for a start, as usual, I've actually listed all the ratings based on different aspects like tactical, ED0, ergonomic, design, quality, material, and development, deployment, and value. So I've got everything written on paper, and I'm also going to upload the content of this review onto the description. So we're going to jump into the review straight away. So overall length, this thing has a 9.5 inches. Oh, and yeah, we're going to skip all this because you can just freeze the video or look at the description. And we're going to talk about what is actually my opinion on the knife. So overall, I think the knife has actually got great ergonomics and high build quality, and it's actually got very considerably little bit of little weight for the size of the knife you get. So for start, the blade, it's got a very great choice of the steel, and I've actually had a lot of experience with S30V, both by Spyderco and Benchmade. I found Spyderco actually got their S30V stainless steel slightly on the softer side, but I think that's probably for a reason, because Spyderco knives often were made to cut and pierce very well, but they actually ground very thin, like you can see. And they're very thin knives and sort of delicate, especially on the tip and around the hole. So it wouldn't actually surprise me they've actually made their steel relatively softer, just to give it enough toughness to actually survive people's slight abuse, I guess. And Spyderco knives, like usual, this guy actually has very good sharpness. Speaking of which, before we forget, we'll just do some sharpness test. It actually just cuts like a freaking hot knife through butter. There's no dispute. I've actually only had like 1 or 2 out of like maybe 15 Spyderco knives that were not very sharp. Anyways, it's got full flat grind, which is Spyderco often marketed and also sort of popularized on these tactical folding knives. And the full flat grind, if you didn't know what it means, is that this entire surface of the blade is just a straight line. There's no curvature, or there's no if you look at the profile, see it's like just straight line, and that allows you to use the knife cut through material very easy. So that's also very nice, very aggressive tip. I don't need to say no more. You can see it's almost like a freaking needle coming down to the tip, and it's got a very big belly, so like it's a big curvature around the edge, and that's really great for utilitarian use. And I imagine you can cut through like ropes and things very well, even though it's actually a straight edge. You can get this knife on a combo edge or just serration only, but I like straight edge these days. And it's got a very good look, and I mean it's a very pointy and very long, slim like knife, and the look is very nice. And also you pull this thing on anyone, they will actually take you very seriously. So in self-defense use, that's like if you can scare away your enemy, it's better than having to fight him and you probably will get hit. Very large round thumb hole. This is one of the Spyderco's other sort of very like a special feature. They've got a very big round hole for you to open one-handed. That's actually quite easy, and I imagine if you wear gloves, and it's also going to be quite relatively easy as well. So honestly, this knife, like the first time I got it, it wasn't actually so smooth and easy to open one-handed, like flicking. Obviously you can open it with your thumb slowly, and there was no problem there at all. Anyways, so next point is it's got a finger choil around the blade, and here it was jimping, so you can see that over here the blade actually offers some degree of like jimping. So this is like a little saw tooth here, so you can hold the knife like this and actually cut things with relatively better control. So I really like that as well. And there's also jimping on the back of the blade, as you can see the saw tooth there. It's not super aggressive, but it's functional, so that's very nice as well. This particular one comes with the blackened blade. As you can see, it's actually diamond-like carbon, which means it's just a carbon in a different sort of like a atomic structure which forms similar properties like diamond, which is very hard. So that actually increases the wear resistance, and you wouldn't actually lose the coating very easy. And obviously that provides a lot of tacticality, like in the night, if you're army, military personnel, you put this thing out, it's not going to attract light and cause people to notice you. Obviously most of us wouldn't probably actually use that feature particularly, hopefully not. Next, we're actually talking about the handle. It's a very large handle. I've got sort of medium to small sized hand, and I found this thing is quite big. And I imagine if you're actually a very big guy and very big hands as well, you hold this thing, it's not going to be like, you wouldn't run out of space to grip. It's got pretty much, I think something around like 4.5 to 5 inches long handle. And if the handle somehow is still small for you, you can choke up on here. It's definitely going to increase the overall size of the handle, so that's very nice. Very aggressive jimping on the locking bars. You can see here, hopefully will focus. Yeah, so you can see that there's jimping on the locking tab as well. And it's got partial steel liners. So okay, so inside, this is obviously G10. If you know anything about knives, G10 is very popular. But the steel liners actually goes only up to here. So it sort of forms like a slight triangle shape, and the rest of this part is all just G10. It actually provides very good rigidity and strength, and reduce a lot of weight. So Spyderco really thought this one very well, and I respect it for, like, this is one of their flagship designs, made in USA, and very well designed, and called Military. Man, like, they couldn't have marketed this thing any better. So respect for that. The lightweight is lightweight for the size of the knife is actually very appreciable. I guess most of users would like to have a lightweight large knife. And it's got a back spacer here actually, that I believe is made of aluminum alloy. So the back spacer here is about this long, but keep in mind this is actually this is old model. Spyderco has a new model which is also military, and it doesn't actually have a like a different designation. It's still just called military, not military 2. But if you go on their website, or if you get any dealers who can actually supply you the current model, it doesn't have the back spacer. which I actually preferred backspacer. It actually has a very good comfort, because you don't actually feel like, you feel like this entire surface here is all just flat, like you don't actually feel that much hot spot. For whatever reason they can't actually stop using the backspacer. It's probably just reducing the weight or whatever, but I actually prefer backspacer. I believe in the back of the review I've got a picture of the newer model, which I will show you, but near the end of the review. So as I said, so as of 2016 they've actually made the backspacer disappear, along with a couple of other small minor details. So another aspect of it is like it got it's reasonably traction, the G10, which is giving you extra grips should you be using this knife with a wet hand or sweating or with mud on it. So that's very nice as well. It's got a very small lanyard hole, but any lanyard hole for me is appreciated, because I rather have to have the lanyard hole there, not have to use it, than losing the knife, because you don't have anything to attach the knife to. So that's very good as well. The military model comes with various different colors on the G10, and this particular one is the one that basically makes it military, because it's got a digitized camouflage, which is very cool. And bear in mind that all the patterns here is basically impossible to repeat. So every military model with the digicam is going to look different somewhat. So that's not the thing that makes you, it shouldn't be the thing that makes you panic. So a couple of negative points, like I said, all knives have something that some people may not find great, but it doesn't mean a knife is just, no knife is perfect. So for a start, I think the centering of this particular model is slightly off. For me, I actually personally don't mind, but so you can see it's actually slightly leaning toward the left. But that's not actually so much of a problem. And deployment, it was not super smooth when I first got it, but now I think it's slightly sort of worn in, so it's actually quite smooth somewhat. And okay, so coming down to the details, for start, the blade tapers around the tip very rapidly, so you can see it's a very fine tip, and it's very good for penetrating. But as a result of that, obviously you're going to have a weaker tip, and just make sure you don't abuse this knife too much. Honestly, you probably shouldn't abuse it at all. Just use it for cutting wood or things softer than that, but don't cut anything harder than wood. And don't stab it into things and then try to pry things, like it's just going to definitely break the tip. And if you want to see how well this knife performs in the very abusive environment, go on YouTube and look for some like Spyderco Military abuse test or something. Some Russian guy has already done something like this. I think we're going to conclude the review at this point, and I'm going to make a part 2. And I hope you enjoyed the review so far. I'll see you in part 2. Thank you.